I went into Harold Halibut almost completely blind. After watching a short teaser trailer, I basically committed to playing it from that moment. It was such a unique looking world with a charming stop motion style that I felt whatever it had in store I would be receptive to it in one way or another. I don't usually buy games like that, I like to really know what I'm getting myself into, but something about this game made me trust it. I would come to regret and feel good about that decision in distinct ways as I played through it. But where did this game come from in the first place? Harold Halibut was developed by Slowbros, a small indie studio based out of Germany, and despite my first impressions, this is in fact their first project. Founded in 2015, it seems that this small team of less than 10 people came from every niche creative field to make a wholly new video game experience in Harold Halibut. Their website lists experience in video games and film, as well as carpentry and illustration, and you can feel that experience rubbing off on this game. It seems that regardless of no previous games under their belt, they were able to make something that felt very tactile and deliberate because of their combined background. This, combined with choosing to use real sets and stop motion for the environments and characters, makes the whole experience feel very thought out, as well as giving it something that I would describe as a gritty film look reminiscent of classic movies of the late 20th century. It's super impressive for any first game, especially one from such a small studio, but that doesn't mean much if the story is boring or the gameplay falters. So on that note, how does it feel to step into the shoes of Harold Halibut? Now, after learning a little bit about the developers, I guess it would make sense that Harold Halibut is a game that urges you to take your time with it as you learn more about the unique world that Slowbros has created. That is great narratively, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but it can be frustrating in some ways when it comes to actually playing the game. It was by no means a deal breaker for me, but I did often find myself wondering what I was actually playing whenever I load up the game. Let me explain what I mean by that. As you traverse this underwater world, you will mostly be going from one point to the other, talking to people as well as retrieving items or acting as a messenger for the many residents of the ship you are living within. This does a great job of dumping interesting lore on you and forcing you to explore your surroundings, but unfortunately it doesn't make for something that I found particularly satisfying in terms of actual gameplay. Boiled down, most of the game can be summarized as walking back and forth and listening to cutscenes. Basically a bunch of fetch quests interspersed with those cutscenes. To make matters worse, I found Harold, the main character, to be tediously slow even while running. Now I understand that he is a regular person, but would it kill him to go a little faster than a slow jog? He mentions that he's in his 20s and his job in game is basically just doing chores and running errands, so I know he could go faster than that if he really wanted to. If they really didn't want to make him run faster, for whatever reason, they could have made the environment smaller, but that probably wasn't possible given the fact that all the environments were made physically by hand. So they probably had to stick with what they had, which makes me all the more confused why they didn't just speed him up a little bit. Because with how much back and forth running you'll be doing, especially if you don't want to miss anything, you do eventually get bored of the surroundings a little bit, no matter how exciting or cool they look. This is eventually remedied by having the world open up to a larger space, but then you just find yourself having to run at Harold's frustratingly slow pace over even longer distances, just constantly backtracking the whole time. Besides that, there isn't really much to talk about in terms of gameplay. There are a few mini games in an in-game arcade, but they weren't super engaging, and I didn't really see any reason to play them beyond trying them once. There are also a couple unique gameplay experiences related to the story, but they mostly amount to some sort of on-rails forward action with no obstacles, which was also pretty disappointing. This is best shown by the submarine sections later on in the game. During these sections, you're in control of a sub that is constantly moving forward as you move up and down or side to side. There are random rocks that you can hit, but they're pretty easy to avoid. Nevertheless, it is a pretty simple challenge that shakes things up a little bit, except I quickly found out that hitting the rocks doesn't do anything. There is no penalty, and there is no way to die in this game or really mess up in any meaningful way. I'm not asking for a hardcore life and death situation in this narrative game, but it would be nice for the gameplay to feel a little more involved some of the time. With this lack of consequences, it felt like I didn't really have any agency a lot of the time, which did make me wonder sometimes why this wasn't an animated feature or miniseries instead of a game, because it seems like the story was most of the focus here. Speaking of the story though, how does that compare to the less than exciting gameplay? If there's one word I would use to describe the overall story of Harold Halibut, I would probably say it's charming. In this game, you are thrust into the life of the titular Harold, who is a general handyman and assistant for the scientist Jean Moreau. Both of you, along with a wider community of characters, live on the spaceship Fedora 1. This ship left Earth 250 years before the main story takes place, but instead of barreling through space on the hunt for a new home, it has long been stuck in the ocean of a planet that happened to crash into. While stuck in this ocean, the community of the Fedora 1 is content to live a peaceful existence without much changing from day to day. until two key events happen that change the course of Harold's life. If you don't want spoilers for the main chunk of the game, I'll put a time code on screen that you can skip to now. If you don't mind that, I'll just get into it. Without delving into the details, it has recently been worked out by the scientists on the ship that the Fedora 1 might be able to continue on its journey to find a habitable planet. For years, they've been stuck in their ship within an alien ocean, but now they have discovered a time and strategy to fling themselves back into space. They have a very small window to do this, but if everything goes to plan, it should be pretty smooth sailing. There are internal struggles about how this will be done, but the game is a lot more concerned with the struggles going on within Harold. Because everyone is excited to get back into space, he has just found a reason why he might not want to leave. Pretty much at the same moment that the ship's solution has been found, Harold has found an alien washed up in the ship's filtration system. Initially in poor health and unconscious, Harold nurses him back to health and grows attached along the way. When they finally wake up, we learn that this alien is named Wee-Woo. With the help of the scientist Moreau, Harold and Wee-Woo are able to communicate, and once Wee-Woo is well enough, they are able to take Harold back on a research mission to their alien community. It is while in this community that Harold is confronted by a whole different way of life. These aliens are alien in the physical sense, but they are also different from everything that Harold has ever known. He finds a new sort of connection with them that he's never felt on the Fedora 1. He has had friends back on the spaceship, but he has not felt truly at home, and he starts to wonder if he will ever feel as comfortable as he does now if he goes with his fellow humans in search of something better. Eventually, as the other conflicts are ironed out, there's only one thing left for Harold to do. He says goodbye to everyone he has ever known and decides to stay with Wee-Woo on the alien planet that he's always inhabited, but never truly felt that he could call home until now. In the end, you watch the Fedora 1 break away from the atmosphere, mirroring Harold as he breaks away from the people that he has orbited in his entire life. It doesn't seem like a complicated story when I lay it out like that, but I do promise there's more to this as Harold opens up as a person through his interactions with the other people on the ship. Everyone that you interact with is complicated and interesting in their own way, most of all Harold. He's a timid guy for the majority of the game, just seeming to be a vessel to do whatever is needed of him, but as you go through the game, you start to see him question this role that he has been slotted into. He starts to wonder if that is what he wants with his life, or if he has ever taken the time to figure out what he really wants. I think a lot of us can relate to Harold in that way. I know I can. I think a lot of us have felt in a place where we felt like we were just going through the motions of life, waiting for something else to come along and change things for us. Just sitting and constantly waiting. But eventually, what Harold discovers is that you have to change your life yourself. You must pick up your own path or you will naturally walk along one laid out for you. He's a really great character and one of the highlights of this game, but to show his growth, I think Harold Halibut also sort of highlights one of my biggest problems with the game, which is its overall length. I've already sort of talked about it when I talked about gameplay, but the problem is only exacerbated when I talk about the story. During the story, it shows Harold doing whatever is told of him and going with the flow of life. It often feels like nothing is really happening. I would often go for an hour or two playing this game, talking to characters and technically progressing while feeling like I hadn't really done anything at all. There's a monotony here that feels like it overstays its welcome to me, and it dragged the whole experience down for me. When I played this, it took me just under 15 hours to do just about everything that I had to offer, and I was ready to be done by the end of it. If I had to give one critique of everything I've said in this video, it would be to cut down and tighten the experience by like 2 hours. I think it would have gone a long way to turn what is a good experience into a truly unforgettable one. So given all of that, would I recommend that you check this out for yourself? Honestly, it's tough to say 100% yes. I'm happy that I played it because the story was something that felt interesting and unique and human, but at the same time, it was often a huge slog to actually get through. You really have to be someone who values the artistic merit of a game over the interactive aspects, which I recognize isn't going to be for everyone, or even most people. But if you care about a heartfelt story in a quirky and unique world that looks different from everything else I've ever played, then I would at least give it a shot. Look at what I've shown off in this video, watch a trailer, and that's basically what the game is going to look like the entire time. That is going to tell you everything you need to know. It's pretty good overall, and if you have a decent amount of time to kill, there's a great story here hidden underneath an okay game. And that's basically it. That's going to be it from me, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video, hopefully sooner than last time. I know I was gone for a little bit. See you guys next time. Bye.